if you look around the country, some of the best teams in the country, probably most of the best teams in the country, are husband and wife.
Hmm.
So everything you just said is true. It wasn't Sherry's thing. She was supporting me in the beginning, but you're right. In addition to all of the attributes that you recognized, she also knew what I wanted, knew what I was going to do next before I even did it, and anticipated that, which made us work together really well. Same with the other way around. She was also the biggest. This doesn't get talked about nearly enough, but when you cook barbecue and you have your head in the smoke for 10 or 12 hours, it dulls your senses, and you don't taste the smoke on the food, and you don't taste things as well as you would otherwise. So, Sherry being the taster for the Pellet Envy team was probably the most critical thing and was probably what made us the most successful.
They gon' have barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. They gon' have barbecue. Your barbecue on. Get your barbecue.
Ever notice how the sound of sizzling meat and the smell of smoke can silence the noise of the world? Now that's barbecue therapy. If the fire moves you, like, subscribe, share, and help spread the message because growth, like good barbecue, takes time and patience. Welcome to your therapy session. Hi, this is special notice. This episode, I was given 30 minutes for the interview, so I tried to make it as good as I can. So I hope you like it. Welcome back to the Barbecue Therapy Podcast. My name is Tavis Bryant, and today I'm honored to be joined by a true icon in the world of barbecue, Rod Gray. From building Pellet Envy into one of the most decorated teams in competition barbecue to appearing on BBQ Pitmasters and now serving as the CEO of the Kansas City Barbeque Society, Rob's journey covers every corner of the barbecue world. All right, I appreciate you coming on. I got one rule: make yourself at home and speak freely. I have no sponsors, so we can't get kicked off.
Thank you for having me, Tavis. If you know me, I do speak freely most of the time.
All right, that's what it's all about. All right, we're going to take it back a little bit. Before you started Pellet Envy, where are you from and what introduced you into competition barbecue?
So I grew up in central Kansas. We really didn't have a lot of barbecue. We grilled.
Hmm.
I think at the age of 12, my dad I was 12, gave all of us Weber grills for Christmas. So grilling was in my family, but not barbecue. I went off to school and I was introduced to restaurant barbecue at school, and it was close to Kansas City, and we'd make trips to Kansas City and eat barbecue. But competition barbecue, early on, I was introduced to it by a coworker who competed in the Great Lenexa Barbecue Battle, which is an old time contest in Lenexa, Kansas,
Hmm.
200 team contest. And it was a blast, but I didn't understand it.
Hmm.
Fast forward to 2001, and Kansas City had a brand new speedway built, the Kansas Speedway. Never had a race on it, and they had money to spend in a community service project, and they decided on a barbecue contest. So Jeff Staney, the owner of Joe's Kansas City,
Hmm.
was approached to put on a barbecue contest, and with that prize money, and so they set up this event, and I was invited to come as a spectator. It was July,
Hmm.
and it was hotter than hot, and went out there expecting to see 200 miserable teams, and I saw folks having so much fun. I knew right then I had to be a part of it, and so that's when I was really introduced to competition barbecue. Was at the Kansas Speedway in July of 2001.
Oh, wow. And was that the American Royal or before the American Royal?
American Royal was still down on the West Bottoms. It wasn't out there yet. It was probably 15 years later that the American Royal started to host their event out there.
Oh, wow.
So this thing, the asphalt was still oily. It was so fresh. Nothing. It hadn't had a race out there, and they had this big barbecue contest. And I met a couple of guys that were on the Food Network the night before, Paul Kirk and David Close, and I just saw people having so much fun. It was so hot. They had baby pools full of ice with their lawn chairs in them, and of course all the misting fans, and they were having a ball on Friday night. And I left there thinking I've got to find a way to get involved in whatever's going on out there. So that's how it started.
Okay, okay, that sounds good. So once you got together and started doing your first contest, what grabbed you emotionally about the barbecue culture that made you say, "I want to be a part of this" after you competed?
It's the people. It's still the people, but it was the people. We were all out there to win a prize, of course,
Hmm.
but it didn't feel like it was competitive, meaning you weren't really, I don't know how to say this, but you were really not competing against the guy next to you as much as you were competing against the scores and the judges in the tent to get someone to love your food. So the camaraderie of a barbecue contest is like no other experience. And you see some of those same people as you travel around and compete in different events, whether it's locally or regionally or even nationally, and it becomes a family. And so that's still the thing that gets me. And I haven't competed in 6 years now, maybe, but the only thing that what I really miss about it is the people.
Okay. Okay. And when you first started, what kind of smoker were you cooking on?
So I went home that night from that Speedway contest and got on the internet, and there was a forum called the Barbecue Forum. It's long gone. And it was run by a gentleman here in Kansas City who was an insurance agent, insurance salesman, Ray Basso. And Ray had this forum, and I didn't even realize that the people on that forum were some of the top cooks in the country.
Wow.
But I read that forum all night. I remember my wife was on a vacation with her sister, so I didn't have any responsibility. So I spent the entire rest of the night into the morning reading this forum. And by the morning, I decided I needed to own a Hasty Bake. And so they were in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 3 or 4 hours from Kansas City. Monday morning, I called them, and before the weekend, I'd driven down to Tulsa and come home with a Hasty Bake, the Legacy, the big Hasty Bake.
Okay.
I still own it all these years later.
Oh,
It's
wow.
an amazing grill. It had a little steeper learning curve than I expected it to. Hasty Bakes were cooked on to win the American Royal, not a little sooner than 2001. I thought that was what I needed to have, was the same cookers that won the American Royal. It didn't take me long to figure out that it was harder for me than I thought it would be, and I transitioned straight to pellets. And so FE100 was my cooker of choice for a lot of years.
Okay. Okay. And the thing is, a lot of people, you're an example because a lot of people downplay the pellet grill, but you showed that you can be successful. It's not what you're cooking on, it's the person that's cooking. And that's what I love about it, because a lot of people try to downplay and say, oh, it's not grilling and stuff like that. But that pellet grill, it gets the job done. Like I was telling people, when I got really into barbecue during COVID, I bought a pellet grill for the purpose of I could focus on prepping the meat, cooking the meat, and then go back. If I wanted to use another grill, I could learn eventually, but it helps me focus on one thing. So I don't have to worry about trying to learn the grill. And it helped me to stick with it and not get frustrated and walk off because I couldn't run the grill or do the meat.
That's exactly right, Tavis. That's what I did. I remember really ruining a lot of meat early on. And we tried to eat that meat through the course of the week, and then I burned some more meat on the weekend, and we try again. And a lot of trial and error. But then when I really wanted to ramp up my practice, I could actually put meat on in the morning and go to work, big cuts, and come home, wrap them when I got home, and finish them up for the night before it was time to be done for the day. So I was able to practice quite a bit on a pellet pit. And you're right. And back then, there weren't many of them. In fact, we mounted 2 of them on a trailer, and people had no idea what they were. They wanted to know if they were pizza ovens or incinerators or college dorm fridges. No one knew that they were actually grill smokers. And nowadays, they're incredibly popular. They're on everybody's back deck. And yeah, there are still the guys who say that's cheating, but those are the guys who usually got their butt beat by somebody cooking on pellets at some point, and they're still hurt about it.
Exactly. All right. So we're going to move on. Pellet Envy is one of the most recognizable names in barbecue. What do you think made your team different from others back at that time, other than the pellet grill?
I have a degree in marketing, and this was always going to be a hobby when it got started for me. But when I realized that I was decent at it, we put a lot of effort into a brand, the brand Pellet Envy. And I got my good friend Chris Capel from Dizzy Pig involved, and he designed my logo way back then. And Chris put a lot of thought into it, a lot of care into it. And then we just used that logo to brand everything we did. And I really, honestly and truthfully, I think the biggest part of the success of the Pellet Envy brand was the fact that we did some winning. And when you win, someone takes more notice. Believe me, I had a lot of contests. Let's see. There were a lot of dry spells. We talk about the wins, but just like anybody else, there were a lot of dry spells. But no, the Pellet Envy brand, we worked really hard on it. In fact, I switched over to a Jamie Gear built pit. They call them Jambos, of course, but they were just called Jamie Gear pits. When we started, he wasn't doing it for a living. And I wanted to change my team name, and my wife said, "Oh, heck no, you're not changing your team name. You've got too much brand equity in Pellet Envy." So we just kept it.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. And speaking of, your wife was your teammate through your whole, how is that experience being able to compete with your wife? Because I said, to me, that's the best person that you can cook with is your spouse because they know you the best. They know when you're upset. They know what can calm you down. They know when to tell you to, hey, go take a break, come back, and stuff like that. How is that dynamic, and how did it feel being able to compete with your wife?
If you look around the country, some of the best teams in the country, probably most of the best teams in the country, are husband and wife.
Mm-hmm.
So everything you just said is true. It wasn't Sherry's thing. She was supporting me in the beginning, but you're right. In addition to all of the attributes that you recognized, she also knew what I wanted, knew what I was going to do next before I even did it, and anticipated that, which made us work together really well. Same with the other way around. She was also the biggest. This doesn't get talked about nearly enough, but when you cook barbecue and you have your head in the smoke for 10 or 12 hours, it dulls your senses, and you don't taste the smoke on the food, and you don't taste things as well as you would otherwise. So Sherry being the taster for the Pellet Envy team was probably the most critical thing and was probably what made us the most successful. I was able to win. This is what I say. My wife had a real job, so I didn't have to grow up all those years. She couldn't be there all the time because she only had so much vacation, but we got her to the big ones. And I know that I cooked better and was more successful when Sherry was there than when I cooked solo.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It makes a big difference. So that support system, because when you got somebody else there, they don't know you as well. So they don't
Yeah.
know what's going on inside your head versus having that companion to make you snap out of it, get out there and get it. You know what we come here for, and it'll boost your morale and see the fire in their eyes boost you up or vice versa. And I love it because rooters and tutors, old Virginia smoke, and stuff like that, Triple H barbecue, all those that you could, the results show from those spouses. I know a lot of people do it just to get out the house away from their spouse, but I think it, but the most time I think it's good when you have that spouse because then also you don't have to rush coming back. Oh, I got to get home to my wife or anything like that. So I think it's very helpful, and I love seeing it myself. I appreciate that. You participated in almost 500 contests. What's the key to keeping motivated and not getting burnt out doing that many contests?
So early on, it was chasing team of the year was my motivation.
Hmm.
And lucky enough, horribly hard fought battle in 2009 with Steve Farron from I Smell Smoke and Darren Worth from Iowa Smoky D's. And I was just lucky to come out on top of that and be the national champion in '09. And then you do it, and then you say, I want to prove to everybody it wasn't a fluke. So you try to do it again. And that's probably the year I did burn out. I ran just as hard in 2010 as I did in 2009. And in addition to all the contests, I had major sponsors whose I had to satisfy some requirements with all of them.
Hmm.
It made for some really serious time on the road and things. And so in 2010, I came up just short and was second in the nation behind Mike Wozniak from QAL, which what a great champion Mike was in 10. But at that point, after those 2 hard years, I was starting to feel the burnout then. And so I did coast for a while. 11, we were still pretty competitive in 11, but we're teaching more classes and a little less time focused on it. And so the competitive nature of trying to earn points for team of the year probably was a thing
Hmm.
that kept me from burnout for so long. The idea that I had requirements from sponsors to satisfy kept me focused on the things I needed to do. Meaning, I needed to get to the contest, I needed to get set up, I needed to fulfill those requirements at an event and compete. And the reason that those sponsors had found me was because of my success, so that kept me motivated. But there did come a time where I started to feel some burnout, And if you compete as long and hard as we did then, more power to you if you don't, but it's pretty easy to start to feel burned out.
Oh yeah, definitely. And during your career, you've earned more than 20 plus perfect scores across all four meat categories, which is crazy. What's the key to getting those perfect scores?
Consistency. Here's the thing. The first year I cooked, there were a couple other guys here in Kansas City, and the three of us were a team, and two of us were type A personality. And in that early first year, we were really successful at chicken.
Mm.
But those two guys like to have a good time on Friday night, and I was a little more conservative, so it was my job to get up at 5 a.m. and brine the chicken. And every time I pulled this tub of brine up out of the ice in the cooler, it was a different color. We were winning chicken. We were doing so well in chicken, yet things were changing every week. And I finally asked my teammates, I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And he's like, if I have to cook the same every weekend, I don't think I could do this. We only lasted a year, and then it was Sherry and I going forward. And honestly, it's consistency. It's staying in the groove. You're not there to cook what you like. You're there to cook what the judges like. You're there to cook it. You're there to pay attention to every detail of it. You're there to realize when it's not the same and what to do to fix those things. And it's competition barbecue to be good at it. It's a lot, but the short answer to my perfect scores is consistency. And I will tell you, by the way, that number is so small today compared to what folks are doing on the circuit in terms of perfect scores. You can't see it, and I don't think I can move my camera, but just over my shoulder, I have a jersey from the year we won Team of the Year 2009. And
Yeah, I can see
it's
it.
lined with a dozen gold stars, which were perfect scores. And I took that out to the 2000. I think the All-Star game was in Kansas City on 2012, and so KCBS had three of us out there, four of us out there, Andy Groneman and Todd Johns and Rob McGee. And I put that on an easel, and Andy and Todd were like, whoa, because a dozen perfect scores was a big deal back then. We've got more people scoring better than ever before right now, so it's probably not much of an accomplishment these days, but we were definitely proud of it.
Yeah, back then that was amazing. That's unheard of.
That was through that point in my career.
Oh.
They were 180s were much more rare in the old days.
Yeah. And let's talk about teaching classes, because from what from when I'm researching stuff, you were one of the first ones out there just teaching classes to everybody. What kind of made you go against the grain and start teaching classes where it wasn't done that much?
So first off, there were people teaching classes before me. I'll give you an example. Ray Lampy, Dr. Barbecue, taught classes. In fact, he let me come wash his dishes at his class that he had in Effingham, Illinois early on. And it's funny, the people that were in that class, some of the great cooks, Darren Worth was in that class. I think Mike Wozniak was in that class. There were a bunch of cooks in that class. It was so early, but I owned my own company and was cooking barbecue as a hobby. And I made a decision that I wanted to do this barbecue thing full time, knowing that you can't support yourself based on winnings at a barbecue contest.
Mhm.
One, you can never expect them, and two, they are never enough to support the expenses involved in what you're doing. So I wrapped my head around a business idea how I would make money at this, and one was to teach classes. And so we started teaching in 07, and it was really early. And I decided, if I'm going to teach a class, I'm going to tell everybody exactly what I do every weekend. And so we even set up the format, which I know a lot of people do now. We set it up in a way that it was like being at a contest with us in real time from start to finish. That was the idea. So that it wasn't switching out a raw brisket that you trimmed for a cooked brisket that came out of nowhere and it was on your plate to show how to trim it and get it in the box. We trimmed the meat, we prepped the meat, we cooked that meat, we brought it in the next day, we sliced it, got it in the box, and everybody sampled it. So you saw it in real time. That was really important. But I want to tell you a really quick story. So not long into doing that, probably less than a year, I got a phone call from a fellow competitor, and it was on a Sunday, which means that they had competed somewhere. And he said, we were talking at the contest we were at, and we just want to know why you're teaching classes. And what he was implying was, why are you giving away all your secrets and making it harder for the teams with the knowledge to win. And I said, I'm doing it for the money. And he couldn't say a word to me. I was doing it to make a living. But honestly, funny enough, a few years later, he listed his first class. He advertised his first class, and I did not call him. It took about 9 months for me to see him on the circuit. When I saw him on the circuit, he said, I've been waiting for your call. And I said, I know you have, and that's why I didn't call you. So it came full circle, and he was teaching classes.
Yeah. Because from based on a lot of people I talked to, they've taken your class, and I was like, he was out there doing it way early, and I also Ray was doing it, so you was ahead of the curve on that, and they probably was ready to take you out because you were causing other people to win also.
People said that because I taught classes, then I didn't win as much, which isn't really true. I started teaching in 07. We were national champs in 09 and runner up in 10. And we had a brisket national champion and a rib national champion in there somewhere too. After that, yeah, maybe. I don't know if that was the reason or if people just got better, but a lot of people were teaching classes not long after I did. They'd come to my class and realize if you could set it up in that format, it isn't that hard to do. So a lot of taught really great classes for a lot of years.
Yeah. Okay, let's switch over real quick. Now, you're the head of KCBS. My question for you, but I always wanted to know, as far as records, like in a sport, like you've been cooking since 01, and barbecue data only starts at 07. And a lot of those records where you hear like Darren Worth and all that he's done and all that you've done, it only tells part of the story when you research. Are those records around that predates, and are they available to be seen or anything like that for y'all true that we could tell?
You ask a really great question. The records that are available are the old bull sheets, the monthly publication for the organization. And we have every bull sheet that we've ever published from 1986 on.
Ooh.
And in those are contest results, usually for the previous month, but they only list the top 5.
Oh.
So they only go top 5. And even our Hall of Fame point system goes deeper than top 5. But we do have those records, and we're in the process of finding a way to scan all of those bull sheets in and use software that makes them searchable, so we can at least retrieve all of that data in a way that isn't manual, because that would be a lot.
Yeah.
But we have them here. I've been through them. We just went through them a month or two ago to verify some finishes for a team that is in line to be in the KCBS Hall of Fame, be inducted in the 2026 class. And that team had provided us with some results that predate the digital data that we have. And we went in and confirmed those wins for that team. So it's here. It'd be incredibly tedious to go through every single one and do an overall tabulation. We're working on digitizing all of our bull sheets so they can easily be scanned.
Okay.
For that purpose, that very purpose.
That's good to hear, because when I came into barbecue, I went off based on what I seen on TV, internet, stuff like that. But then when I got around competitions, started walking around and all that, talking to people, they started talking about Darren Worth. But when you go and look online, you can only see a little bit. So it kind of distorts what people saying, and they don't know the full story of how you doing it and how he's doing it. Because barbecue data only have you at 300 contests instead of 500. So it kind of distorts people's, kind of like baseball, football. You can go back and look at everybody's numbers and stats and stuff and do the research and stuff like that. But that, what you're talking about, it'll be very helpful, because I like history. I like people origin and where they started from. So I appreciate that, because that's one of the main questions I had, because I wanted to see people's stats, and I like looking up and see people numbers and stuff like that.
There's a whole bunch of teams that I remember from when I got started that don't get a lot of credit these days because they've just been forgotten. Three Little Pigs and USA Smoke, and even Mike Davis Lot of Bull. A lot of his success was prior to the digital age. So a lot of his wins don't show up in there. Johnny's in our Hall of Fame based on merit. We know he had the success, but it's a lot of that success is buried in those archives. And there are so many others that are that way as well. Darren, here's the crazy thing about Darren and Sherry Worth.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the Hall of Fame and they're missing a whole bunch of their results. So just imagine, once they reach the threshold of points, we don't tabulate them anymore. But I can't imagine all the additional points we would find for Darren once we get all this digitized and done, if that's what we're after. It'd be incredible.
Yeah, that's definitely crazy. Let me ask you a couple more and to get you out of here. You went from chasing calls on Saturdays to running the largest sanctioning body in barbecue. What mindset shift did you have to make to step up into that CEO role?
Tavis, you asked some great questions because this is serious. I came into this, my experience was as a cook. I still view things as a cook, but realize that we're a 15,000 member organization. We're a nonprofit member-based organization. And if you had to break down that 15,000 numbers, I'd say that 4,000 of us are cooks, 10,000 of us are judges, and 1,000 of us are just enthusiasts. My point being, the vast majority of this organization are folks who are certified barbecue judges, not pitmasters.
Oh, wow.
We always champion the pitmasters here at KCBS, but the truth is we need to represent the entire organization. And so that was the first thing I had to wrap my head around. And Carolyn Wells, soon after I got here, walked into my office and she said, you realize that KCBS is a four-legged stool. It's teams, it's judges, it's reps, and it's organizers. And if we lose any one of those four legs, then our stool is no longer stable and it falls over. She's absolutely right. Granted, organizers and reps are a much smaller number. They're still a very important part of KCBS. But that was the mindset that I had to change, was that we have a lot of cooks and the cooks are very visible out there and we can easily track their success. But there are a lot of other people who make up this organization who are equally as important and they should be represented.
Definitely, because probably in a couple of weeks, I got an interview with Artie Davis, so I look forward to that and hearing his story and talk to some of the stuff that he got to witness and stuff like that. So I look forward to that.
Make sure Artie tells you he's CBJ number 2.
Wow.
Number 2. We're currently in the 6 digits when we assign CBJ numbers, and he's number 2. And Artie's an amazing guy. Artie was very influential in how this organization got started. We owe Artie so much for all of his help and input.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I got one more question. I'm gonna get you out of here because I know you pushed for time, and I'll try to get you on sometime later on the year. If you had to construct an all-star team with 4 people, you and 3 other people, to cook a contest, what meat you'll cook, what meat they'll cook, and what 3 people you'll pick to cook with you?
Oh my God. We've gotten through this whole interview and I haven't mentioned Brad Leininger.
Yes.
And Brad is he's on pace to win KCBS Team of the Year yet again, which he'll be a 4-time KCBS Team of the Year winner. No one to my knowledge has done that. I think we have multiple 3 times, but we don't have a 4 time. So I'd be remiss if I left Brad off, and Brad can cook any category he wants to. I don't care. He can pick. Beyond that, I'm going to dig into the archives a little bit. I'm going to bring on Johnny Trigg to cook ribs. I'm going to bring on Tuffy Stone, and he's going to cook chicken. And I guess that leaves me with either pork or brisket, whichever one Brad doesn't want.
That's a good team. All right. I appreciate you coming on. And if you have any shout outs or anything you want to promote or anything, you can do that at this time.
If you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit about KCBS.
Oh, go for it.
We're gearing up to go to the American Royal, the world's largest barbecue contest, and officiate it. It's the second weekend in November. And then after that, we have the KCBS Hall of Fame induction and the annual awards banquet here in Kansas City, February 20th and 21st of 2026. And then, of course, the next biggie is the World Invitational. It's going back to Lebanon, Tennessee, Memorial Day weekend of 2026. And Friday night of this year, we had a 1 meat chicken and a 1 meat ribs category. Those are going to turn into invitationals. If you win a chicken 1 meat or a rib 1 meat, or if you win the chicken category or the ribs category of the contest you're in, whether that's backyard or masters, you will be invited to compete on Friday night at the World Invitational. And we're announcing it live right here. We've hinted around about it, but we're just getting ready to start promoting it. And not a lot of people know just yet, but we're going to have an amazing Friday night event with a special invitational for those two categories, and crown some world champions in those categories on Friday night at Lebanon, Tennessee.
Sounds good.
That's probably enough. I really do appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast.
Oh, I'm glad you appreciate it. I'm in Georgia, so I got my tickets. I'm gonna come walk around the American Royal. So if you're gonna be there, I'm gonna look for you, introduce myself so I can meet you.
Do that. Come. So we work out of the end of there's 4 garages in the infield.
Mm-hmm.
Private parties make up, I think, the other 3, maybe all 4 of them. But at the end of one of those garages is a space where we check in all the teams. And so that's home base for KCBS. And then, of course, Saturday and Sunday we'll be in the judging area most of the time, which is garage number 1. It takes up the judging. But yeah, come by. I'd love to shake your hand.
Okay, I appreciate it, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, you have a good day.
You too.
We just wrapped up another session of barbecue therapy. Remember, stay patient, stay passionate, and keep that fire burning. Hit subscribe, share the good smoke, and pay the secretary on your way out. Have a blessed day.